tonight. Alright! We're gonna have a TV party, alright! Tonight! We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Everybody's gonna hang out here tonight! Alright! We'll pass out on the couch. Alright! Tonight! We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Don't talk about anything else. We don't wanna know. We're dedicated to our favorite shows.
And tonight, our favorite show is Wrestlemania 34. In addition to which, we will also be talking about the Hall of Fame, WWE 2018, and NXT New Orleans, Nolans, if you will. And I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And I've got a panel of guests tonight, wrestling enthusiasts. We haven't had this first one on our show in quite a long time. He likes to come along to talk about the Fuller House. Tonight, he's going to talk a little wrestling, because as he likes to remind everybody, Lex Luger ain't no cowboy. Ladies and gentlemen, he's not Bruce Pritchard, but he's got a few impressions of his own that he likes to share with you. He's the punchy pugilist, and you can find him on some Sundays on the 401 Ground and Pound radio show. Our good friend of the family, Mr. Pat Mullin. How do you do, sir?
Well, you know, it's like you take the chicken and you cut up the grapes and the walnuts and you put it all in. And, well, you know.
Indeed. How's it going, Pat?
It's going excellent. Another WrestleMania is in the books. Another WrestleMania weekend is in the books. A lot went on, a lot to talk about. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of hills, lots of valleys. Going down that lonesome highway, you know, traversing through the space and the stars. Reincarnation doesn't have to be a thing, yeah.
Very good, sir. All right, and in the second chair tonight, he's the host of the Screaming Boy podcast. Someday he'll get up a show about Toys R Us that we were all on, probably when it's reopened under the name KB Toys. Ladies and gentlemen, our good friend of the show, Ronnie Adams. How do you do, sir?
Am I allowed to talk now?
So,
Certainly, sir. Who would stop you from talking?
Well, sometimes I don't feel like talking when you talk about that stupid Toys R Us show.
I don't know what show you're talking about. It hasn't gone up yet.
that was a great show.
It really was.
Pat, I really don't need you in on this.
How are you tonight, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Excited to talk some WrestleMania.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's not something we do a whole lot of on the Rattle Legend Broadcasting Network. We before the move to BTR, we farmed that out to Sean Garmer's Wrestling to the Max podcast. But you know what? We had the week open. There wasn't a movie. I mean, sure, we could have reviewed A Quiet Place, but who likes horror movies, really? So,
Right.
Exactly.
And
Mark.
plugs. Go, Mark.
Sir.
Plugs, go.
No.
I love The Quiet Place. I tell you what, John Krasinski is a fine man. He did an excellent job.
I like the.
I don't mean like fine man. I mean like I'm sure he's good looking, but I mean he's a good man.
I didn't know he was in that movie, and now I'm not going to see it because he's in it.
I don't know.
Dude, he wrote the screenplay and directed it.
I like
Also, I have no use.
I like the fan art of him as Mr. Fantastic and Emily Blunt as the Invisible Girl. But we'll see if that actually happens. Fans tend to get out of hand. Speaking of an out of hand fan, ladies and gentlemen, he's the master of ceremonies on the Source Material podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, he's also our third chair on the Metal Hammer of Doom. Good friend of the show, Mr. Jesse Starcher. How do you do, sir?
Well, I am doing quite well. I'm glad WrestleMania finally decided to end about 10 minutes ago. And we all get the opportunity to get on here and talk about it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right.
Look forward to it.
Let's get
I fell
into
asleep and woke up. It was still on.
You know, it was one of the first shows in a long time that I only fell asleep once. But, all right, let's get into it. I want to just talk about the Hall of Fame. Not every minute by minute, beat by beat. Not all of us saw the whole thing, or any of it for that matter. But the Hall of Fames in the past have been interesting. There's definitely been some speeches that felt like they went as long as Sunday night's WrestleMania. Jesus Christ, some of those speeches. The most famous one being Mr. T's, "My mama, check, 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 check," and that went on forever. But, like I said, there are definitely ones that just felt like they just droned on and on and on. I thought the Hall of Fame speeches this year were, like, the only one that felt like it just went on forever was the Dudley Boys, but at least they broke it up with some bits. They put the one guy through a table, they kind of jostled each other back and forth. Pat, you said you watched the Hall of Fame. What did you think of the Dudley Boys speech?
It went on for a little while longer than it probably should have. The table bit was funny, and it was nice to have, the bookend with them, Edge and Christian, and the Hardy Boys all on stage together.
So, somebody mentioned it has to be weird seeing Matt Hardy shake Edge's hand. But I would imagine with him being married and having a kid, he's gotten over the Lita thing.
I'm sure they're both okay with it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no longer a pre-existing condition.
Yeah.
They probably went, dodged that bullet, didn't we?
My favorite speech of the night actually was Ivory's.
No.
Because she took her speech and she did something really creative with it. She sort of acknowledged the fact that she's a spinster, essentially, and she was like, "But I'm married to the wrestling business," and she did this whole marriage type speech where at the end of it she was married to the Hall of Fame or whatever. My wife and I thought it was cute and creative. What did you, Pat? What did you think of Ivory's speech?
I liked it solely because it was different. She came up with an original shtick for it that not only was entertaining, but really probably was a good indicator of her true feelings about everything. So I appreciated it.
Ronnie, did you get to see any of that at all?
Yeah, I watched most of if not all of the speeches.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a deal. It was like, I have a new respect for Ivory. After finding out she got her start in Glow, I did not realize that.
Yeah, I found that out actually a year or so ago. And I think when I had heard that they were pitching a new Netflix show, I can't remember where I saw it. It might have been you know what? It was in the Glow documentary that was on Netflix.
Yep.
Where they talked about how Ivory was one of the original Glow girls.
Mm-hmm. So, and I didn't realize she wasn't married. I mean, so it wasn't really sad, but it was kind of like one of those things like, oh man, maybe you'll find someone someday or something. I don't know, kind of a deal. I mean, like, I understand being married to the business, and I understand that, but it's just, I feel like
it's hard to fathom a beautiful lady like that going without.
She's still gorgeous, man.
Yeah. She's an all-time top 5 rear end on my list of women's wrestling.
Let me say this about Ivory. You look at like Major Guns or some of the other like really chesty women that have been in wrestling. Ivory, and I don't mean this as like an insult, but Ivory, I thought her best look was when she was covered up in the oh shit, the right to censor. And I was telling my wife that like
Mark drops his first 4-letter word of the night.
It's my podcast. I'll curse if I want.
Keep down, everybody. Every time Mark curses, you drink.
And then have an ambulance and stand by.
You want people to die?
Jesus Christ! If anyone takes a drink every time I curse, have a paramedic on hand.
Blaspheming also counts as 3 of us on this show are practicing Christians. That's another one.
Terrific. But yeah, Ivory's right to censor look. I thought she was like that was like the hottest look she had, in my opinion.
Well, the thing about it is I feel like with Ivory, the business took more from her than it gave her. because I don't think she has the respect that she deserves. But maybe now a little more because she's part of the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
She would have been somebody who fits in much better today than in the era she was a part of.
Because she actually had wrestling talent?
Absolutely, because she was a very, very capable in-ring performer in an era of, TNA. And not that she didn't have that, but you're competing in the TNA category with people like Trish Stratus and, Terry Runnels. It's pretty tough to get noticed.
Now Trish got better in the ring.
Yeah. Not saying that she didn't, but okay, let's say because Ivory came in early '99.
The
Trish came in late '99. But that's what I'm saying. Trish didn't really become competent in the ring. We'll say till 2002.
Yeah.
So there was a period of time where Trish was just TNA and she was daggum good at it. It was drop top titty time.
Shout out.
But there was Miss Kitty.
I was gonna say it was
the list goes on.
It was a mixed bag in the Attitude Era for women because it started off. I mean, you got to remember the WWE, and we're not going to spend too long talking about this, but the WWE started off with the women as just side pieces, and the ultimate side piece of all, you had Sunny, who was not a worker, but she was a valet and a manager and all of that. But
she's a worker.
She's a worker, all right. But then it's like if you could just, I think there were 3 categories of women summed up by these 3 women throughout the entire Attitude Era, going into the end of the Attitude Era, which I guess some would call the Ruthless Aggression, the shitty era. But you had the Sunnies, you had the Sables, and you had the Chynas. You had the women who were just pieces of asses. You had the women who were, they were competent in the wrestling industry, but they weren't workers per se. And then you had the ones that didn't necessarily have a great look, but could actually work. And that's the thing is Ivory kind of fit into that mixed bag. But I think you guys are right. She would have done much better now, where where work is elevated above, I think, everything else. Mm-hmm. Pat, you want to? I don't know if you have a different opinion on that. You want to weigh in real quick?
No, I think it's accurate. I think again, she was a very good in-ring performer in a time period where that was limited in terms of availability, and not the essential factor of what highlighted women on television at that point. Versus now, the athleticism is put first and foremost. The sex appeal is now a distant second to it.
Right.
I can't imagine Ivory in her heyday, as good of a worker as she was, going against Charlotte or Ruby Riott or any of these people that have that talent, and it makes me sad that she was in that era of women were treated as
having to carry Miss Kitty and Stacy Keibler and
or wrestling in a swimming pool full of mud or whatever, and not even wrestling, just grabbing each other's hair and swinging around for a minute.
I think about the first Hell in the Cell, and it was what was it, Charlotte and Sasha, and things like that. And I'm Ivory would have fitted in any one of those first that we've seen out of the Women's Revolution era wrestlers.
Yeah,
Jesse, a quick 50 words or less. Ivory, anything?
I'm glad she made it to the Hall of Fame. It's well deserved. It's funny you guys were talking about this because I just watched. Well, I'm halfway through the Divas portion of the Monday Night War, and of course, there was the great dichotomy of where WCW was putting on, bringing a bunch of women, and they started out as side pieces as well, but it seemed like McMahon had to make a decision after Alundra Blaze or now I can't even remember her WCW Medusa showed up on TV with the belt and trashed it. So they had to make a definite decision at that point. McMahon said, "Okay, I'm not going to have women's wrestling for quite a while," and that would have been, if things would have went differently there, Ivory would have fit in great. Probably, or at least we could be looking at a women's division that's maybe 2 or 3 years ahead of its time right now. If things would have been different there, but regardless, I'm glad she's in there. Okay.
moving on from Ivory, my only one last point on the Hall of Fame, and then I'm going to kick it to you guys if you have any final remarks. Is, does anyone think Goldberg wasn't full of shit? I mean,
No.
I think he was sincere.
I don't. I think he was sincere, and I came back because my kid never saw me wrestle. That's actually fairly common.
Okay, hold on. Explain, please. I want to know what you guys are talking about since I missed the Hall of Flame. Hall of Flame. Oh my goodness.
Let me give some
tell me what
context.
Set the entire place on fire and people ran screaming for their life.
With his stupid entrance.
I'm sorry I missed it.
Once again, Goldberg walks out amidst a bunch of sparkles and set the place on fire.
But somehow he just came out breathing smoke and he was fine. I don't know what happened there.
Maybe
Unbelievable.
little
He's a legit legend.
A little cut in his forehead from when he punched himself. Look, I love Goldberg. Don't get me wrong, but Goldberg is let's call it the Ultimate Warrior class of wrestlers who fucking hate the business and are there. It's a job. They show up on set. They say their lines. They do their actions, and then they go back to the dressing room until they're needed again. They're
you mean
not
Brock?
Well, I was going to say Brock's part of that type of wrestler. I said the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, maybe Pat can name a few more, but ultimately there's just this small group of guys that never bought into wrestling as a lifestyle. Wrestling is a cult. Wrestling is a religion. Wrestling is a lifestyle. They are very much wrestling as a job. And those guys have always kind of run afoul of the ones that have adopted wrestling as a way of life. Some have dealt with it better than others, but they all kind of walk. I mean, like Brock, I think has been the most successful. But that also might just be the time and place that he.
I would say
that he
the most
exists
successful has been Sting.
You don't? Okay, I didn't know that Sting didn't really buy into it.
Yeah, Sting. Not until much later on, like probably like 10 years ago.
Well, Sting wasn't an Ultimate Warrior type because he wrestled with the Ultimate Warrior.
Warriors.
They tagged together.
For everybody who says like, oh, Sting, he eventually got it and blah blah blah. There's people like Gary Hart who were like, I don't have a lot of respect for Sting because Sting didn't respect what we did, and he didn't understand it, and he didn't try to understand it. And basically everything you've ever heard people say about Goldberg or a Warrior or what have you, a lot of people have said about Sting.
Well, then I would agree with you. Sting was the most successful. That being the case, Goldberg comes out and does this speech about how now he really gets it. Oh, he gets it now. He's good with the business, and he's super excited to be a part of the company and everything else. And it's like, oh, come on. Like, I was excited to see him come back because I thought this time they'd get it right. Like, I just heard Bruce Pritchard's podcast about Goldberg in his run in the WWE, and it was shit. And it was shit because they decided that they didn't know what they had with Goldberg, or they did, and they decided not to use it the way he should have been used. They decided to just make him one of the guys.
Well, he was a WCW.
See my later rant about Finn Balor, by the way. I'll get to that much later on. But But there was something special about the Goldberg character because of the way that he was portrayed in WCW, and they just ran it. They just destroyed that in his initial.
We're gonna make him entertaining. Damn it!
Yes, we're gonna put a wig on him. But they made him one of the guys basically, and it doesn't. And he's like Brock. He's an attraction. He's not one of the guys. He has to be treated special. But because.
There was legitimately two parts of his speech that I didn't think were bullshit.
Okay.
One of them was he wanted to wrestle for his son that you pointed out earlier. The only other one is there was one person he thanked and I felt it was genuine, and that was DDP.
Sure.
Because DDP legitimately gave him the best match he ever had as a performer ever. He referenced how DDP gave him a 15-page script of their match, which DDP was known to do for his bigger matches. He literally scripted it out and was like, this is how we can nail this. And I don't doubt that he absolutely wanted to pull that off with Goldberg because Goldberg was limited in what he could do. He was intense and powerful, but he was never going to blow anybody away with a 5-star match. That's not what he was. It's not what he should have been.
Goldberg's a play follower. If you give Goldberg a script, he will follow it. That's probably why he was as successful to a degree as he was, to the point that he got into the NFL. Here's the play, follow the play, execute this thing. And I think
that's why I don't think the stuff with DDP was disingenuous. I feel he was sincere in thanking him for that,
right.
and and knowing their relationship later on, I don't feel that was disingenuous. But the knock on Bill in terms of his mentality has always been he's too nice a guy for the wrestling business, which is funny because so many people call him a prick in the wrestling business. But it's because he never understood how things worked entirely, never made the effort to, and was basically manipulated by a lot of people into believing one thing and going with it. And he never got smartened up to the level he should have in terms of not just knowing what's going on in the ring, but what's going on backstage. He was never smartened up to that by anybody. And it allowed him to develop this ego and this persona and this thought of, I know what's right, and he never got it.
I sympathize a lot. I know it might be a weird thing to say about Goldberg, but I really sympathize with where he's coming from. Where he didn't grow up in the business, he didn't really understand it. He was given a lot, and then there was this expectation that he would if you just get suddenly dropped into this alien culture, you're not going to adopt it immediately. You're probably going to make a lot of mistakes and along the way upset people. But is that really your fault if no one tells you what the culture is, what it's like, how to get along? And by the way, you're also made president. That's kind of the Goldberg story. So I get his animosity. And it's not like I wanted to get up there and drop his pants and be like, to all of you who screwed me, this is my dick. Look at it. Look at it. Like, I didn't expect him to be like,
yeah,
fuck
but
them.
He's Jewish. He wouldn't do that.
That's true. I didn't expect him to be like, fuck the McMahons. I didn't expect any of that. But I don't know. I did. There was somebody else who did a Hall of Fame speech where you got the idea that they weren't wazooey about the McMahons or the WWF, but they were happy to have been recognized for their own greatness. It might have been Bruno, or somebody.
Bill Watts.
Bill Watts, and
the speech you're thinking of is Bill Watts.
I'm okay with those speeches. I'm okay with the ones that go, look, I don't have a tremendous amount of nice things to say here, but thank you for the honor and thank you for remembering my contribution to the business. Had his speech sort of been that way, I would have been okay with it. But for me, it just felt like totally, except for the points we've mentioned, totally disingenuous. And it made it kind of hard to watch. I'll let you guys kind of give your final thoughts on Bill Goldberg's and his speech, and we'll move on from this. Go ahead, Pat.
Well, enough about Goldberg, because there was a speech that night that I felt was the greatest Hall of Fame, legitimately the greatest Hall of Fame speech I've heard so far, because it was so heartfelt. It was very real. It was more entertaining than people probably thought it was going to be, and that's Jeff Jarrett's. Mm-hmm. And it had the best close to a Hall of Fame speech ever. Sorry, Michael Hayes.
Aww.
Spend my days working hard on the go, but the hands on the clock keep spinning too slow. 'Cause I can't wait to be alone with my baby tonight.
I thought it was hilarious that neither one of them remembered the words to it.
I think it's hilarious that Road Dogg can actually sing. But that was the real gimmick, that Road Dogg could actually sing and Jarrett can't carry a tune. and they lived it. Thing. Yeah, and it was the truth. Like Jarrett was horrendous on the mic. Singing. It was like, ooh, this was real. This was a real gimmick.
The funny thing is like he was terrible then, but apparently like they started that whole angle because Jeff actually could sing a little bit back when. And, then they were like, well, it would be funnier if it'd make you a bigger heel if you didn't actually sing it, and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, to the very last minute about it, where they were going to do the song, to the very last minute, he really was like, I should probably sing this, though. And it was like, no, I shouldn't. Well, maybe I should. And they had, at the, ninth hour, they finally were like, no, we're going with Road Dogg.
Didn't they do an In Your House where he actually did sing with, a country music band?
He sang in '98 with Sawyer Brown, who were very good, and he actually did sing and did a fairly decent job on Some Girls Do.
There you go. The mystery of just I thought the best Hall of Fame speech was Mark Henry's, but I mean, Ronnie, thoughts on
you have no.
Go ahead.
I was going to say you have no heart if you didn't tear up with Mark Henry.
Dude, at this point, if his wife is like, yeah, I'm still objecting to him being in the Hall of Fame, fuck you guys. Like, yeah, at this point, like, there's no more sympathy left for his widow. You know, she doesn't. How many more wrestlers have to give a Mark Henry speech and have to, you know? And it's not like the WWF purposely fucking dropped him from a ceiling. It was an accident. Okay, you're going to contend they went out of their way to murder the guy?
No, I'm just saying it's not impossible.
Okay.
I'm not going to go
live in front of everybody.
But it was Owen Hart.
I'll teach you guys a lesson.
I'll teach Bret Hart. Break my cameras, will you, Bret? We'll drop your brother off a ceiling. How does that sound?
We'll break your brother.
I'm not going to go full Jesse Ventura on you. What if they knew the harness wasn't going to stay?
Are you kidding me, Jesse?
God, he is Looney Tunes, man.
Anyway,
Pleasure people could be real.
As I was saying, Ronnie, go ahead. I was going to say if you had any last words about Goldberg, or if there's any part of the Hall of Fame you wanted to, because after this we're going to move on to NXT. So anything about the Hall of Fame or Goldberg at this point you want to mention?
I think Goldberg was sincere. I do. I mean, more sincere than you give him credit for, but that's just me. It just felt like it was. And then also the Mark Henry. I mean, Mark Henry deserves this. I mean,
oh yeah.
You know, a lot of people, you know, I mean, a lot of people now who are newer wrestling fans don't realize just how much he gave to WWE. I mean, he was never my favorite wrestler, but I always had a soft spot for him and wanted to see him, you know, succeed because I think he was one of those wrestlers that loved the business and loved the company, but was taken advantage of.
Was
just
there
because
anybody who was more giving at a certain point than Mark Henry to that company?
I mean, come on, through sexual chocolate into Mae Young birthing a hand,
saying that he lost his virginity to his sister.
Yeah, things like that. I mean, they were like, "Here's some crap that can't, you know, they cause in your personal life as well as professional life. We want you to say." He's like, "Okay,
bring it on.
You know, let's do it." And
the transvestite.
Yeah. So he's just, you know, I think he turned into a really good performer, really good worker from what he was, you know, just being the strong guy. Put on some really good matches, and then that heartfelt speech at the end, you know, where it's just like I'm really sorry to see him go because I didn't see him wrestle very much towards the end, but I think he was one of the most deserving on that stage that night, if not the most deserving.
All right,
and it was good to see the Dudleys back together for a few minutes too.
Okay, real quick, I'm going to open this up to everybody. Next year's Hall of Fame, just nominate somebody who you think. At this point, you know, it's one of the fun things about listening to the Jim Cornette podcast. Is it's just like who's left to put in this thing?
Donald Trump.
I think he might actually be already in.
He was inducted.
Yeah, he's
already in. That's right.
Yeah, he's a celebrity. So I'm going to start with you, Jesse, because you haven't had a lot to put in here, because you didn't see it. But if you had to nominate somebody for the Hall of Fame next year, who do you think it might be?
Here's the thing. I have no idea who's in or who's out. So guess what? You ain't going to hear much from me some more because I'm going to be rather quiet here. I have no clue as to because they nominate so many people. How many? Is there a maximum number of how many people they bring in per year?
Here's the thing. They usually do a tag team. A minority,
a woman,
a woman being a minority. A headline. They usually a headliner, and the headliner has been like the WWF Apology Tour. You know, it's been like Savage, much. Warrior, Bruno,
Goldberg.
Goldberg. Yeah. So I mean, Next year, it has to be Owen. Come on. There's no one left to apologize to.
That's the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I will gladly turn this over to Ronnie Adams because I will have. I guarantee you, like three names I come up with off the top of my head are going to be already in there.
I want to play this game. What are your three?
Yeah.
Pedro Morales.
In 96.
There we go. Okay.
Dang,
well done. That's why I almost didn't want to do the show if Pat wasn't on. Go ahead, Jesse. Number 2.
No, I'm done. There's no.
No.
Do not make me.
I was going to say he was in. I knew he was in, but Pat's like, he was in 96. His speech clocked in at this many minutes, and he wore
Savio Vega.
Yeah, Savio Vega inducted him, and he wore Armani that night.
Let's see. Are we bringing any classic wrestlers to Remix? This I don't think we're bringing anybody because the Dudley Boys have both been at Remix here recently. I'm trying to think of somebody that we have. Oh man, off the top of my head, how about Tommy Dreamer? How's that for you? That's going to be a ways out. Will he ever show up?
My wife actually asked me, like, do you think Tommy Dreamer will ever be in the WWF Hall of Fame? And I'm like, no. But,
God, no.
but sure.
If they're... Okay, I don't know if he's...
Why not, though?
The Dudley Boys?
Watch them
He was really terrible
I was
for
gonna say,
a long time.
How about this? How about, I could actually see them inducting the entire ECW into the Hall of Fame. Like, as an
Sandman. Sandman first.
My choice was Taz.
Sabu. If anyone's going in, it's Sabu.
Okay. So my two here's my two nominees, and then I'll let Pat have at it. Actually three. These are my three nominees for next year: the Bulldogs, Owen Hart, Paul Heyman.
Those are good. You took one of them on.
Those are all good.
What would have been what was the other one of yours then, Ronnie?
Heyman.
Okay, but who else?
Taz, and I really want Tommy Dreamer to go in. I've always been a Dreamer fan. I'm sorry, and maybe Mikey Whipwreck.
Wait a second, is that a joke?
Yeah, because I don't think he ever wrestled for WWF.
No, I think he did.
You've done so much for this industry, Mikey.
Mikey did wrestle on an episode of Raw.
Yeah.
Once he wrestled once. I'd like to see the Hardy Boys go in. I mean, they got some years left, but if you're going to go ahead and put Edge and Christian in, even though they're both retired, just go ahead and just drop the Hardy Boys in.
Yeah, man. Only Edge is in, not Christian. Pat, what are your?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Go ahead and throw a couple out there.
Well, the rumor is that because he wasn't inducted this year, so they could do it in New York, New Jersey, which is Bam Bam Bigelow.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Bam Bam would have been one of mine anyway. I think Bam Bam is awesome and he deserves it.
Yeah.
I love the Bulldogs. That's a good one. They deserve it together. Davey, I know people love Davey, but he didn't deserve it by himself. But they'll never let Dynamite show up live and make a speech.
Yeah, Cornette mentioned that after, or Cornette's partner on his show, Brian Lass, mentioned that on I think it was one of the drive-thru.
Yes.
No, it was the drive-thru where he was like, "Yeah, they're not letting Dynamite Kid on the stage while he's in a wheelchair. They'll wait till he's dead."
As morbid as it sounds, they're going to wait till Dynamite's dead and then induct him posthumously.
Yeah.
I know that they're on the outs, but I really think the Hall of Fame's lacking without Demolition in it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Demolition aren't in there? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
They're part of the concussion lawsuit, whatever.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What about Doink?
But even oh no, stop it.
Why?
Just stop it. My third pick would be Rick Martel.
Yeah.
Model.
He was more than the Model. He was in the was he the Can-Am Connection or Strike Force? I can't remember which one.
Well, they were both teams. He was in both of those. Strike Force won the belts, and then he had an earlier run in the WWF in the late '70s, early '80s with Tony Garea, where they won the tag team titles. And aside from that, he's the AWA World Champion for a year and a half.
Right.
He had a huge draw in Canada. He wrestled in Japan. He wrestled all over. He had that last cool run in WCW. I think Martel would be like that 80s kind of nostalgia star who can go in.
I'm actually surprised like him and Brett didn't have like a major title feud when he was doing the model gimmick. Like I don't know why. Like I don't know at that point what what the WWE saw or didn't see in Rick Martel
Martel,
in that era.
Martel was looked at as a guy who, because he had been there for so long, wasn't part of the youth movement that they wanted to go with. Almost the same reason why they were like down on Randy Savage, which was insane, because if you watch Randy Savage and Lex Luger in a ring in 1993, who are you gonna think is the more spry performer?
Mm-hmm. Looking back on it, though, couldn't you have seen like a year-long program with Rick Martel and Bret Hart at the top? It would have drawn.
Absolutely.
It would have drawn no money, but it would have been awesome matches.
Well, they couldn't draw money doing anything anyway, so what would that have mattered?
Exactly. All right, let's move on to NXT. TakeOver New Orleans. Again, I don't want to go match for match. Just want to hit the highlights for myself. It opened up with a car wreck. It was the ladder match for the for the North American NXT Championship, and that was Adam Cole, baby, EC3, who I'm so happy is doing his redemption tour through the WWF. Killian Dane, Lars Sullivan, who looks like a shaven ape. He looks like the gorilla in Rampage. Ricochet, who I don't, because I don't follow a lot of independent wrestling, I don't know much about Ricochet, but boy, can he bounce off shit. And probably my favorite.
Why do you think they call him Ricochet?
Yeah, no kidding. And probably like my favorite. I say like my favorite wrestler just because I've never seen a guy get it as much as this one. The Velveteen Dream. Good old Patrick from Tough Enough. Pat, have you ever seen a guy who claimed to be a fan of the WWF and went on to be a pro wrestler, so totally 110% get the industry, get the business, and then develop a character based on his intimate knowledge of what sells a guy and what doesn't. Because when I first saw that Velveteen Dream character come out, I was like, wow, here's the guy that's just like, you know what? I know exactly how I'm getting over.
I mean, there's a lot of examples, not necessarily from the past 15 to 20 years when you've had more guys who weren't fans come in and get ingratiated. I grew up in the era where everybody loved wrestling, and that's why you wanted to be in wrestling, because you loved wrestling. So, the ultimate example would be like Jim Cornette, who was the super fan and created the Mama's Boy character and knew he couldn't work and whatever, but he became this incredible manager. But, Velveteen Dream is awesome, and this ladder match is the best multi-person ladder match I ever saw. And what I mean by that is, more than just a one-on-one singles ladder match. This is the best. This was better to me than the TLC matches were. This was incredible. It's the third best ladder match I've ever seen, behind Triple H and The Rock at SummerSlam 98 and the second Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon ladder match at SummerSlam 95. This was off the charts great.
Yeah, I would say the only other one out of the ones you mentioned that ever stood out to me is the one where CM Punk won it. And that's only because CM Punk won. I don't remember that ladder match for any other reason other than CM Punk had quit the business and then won the title and ran off with the title. And then they did that whole routine. But other than that one, most of the ladder matches at this point, like the Money in the Banks and whatnot, don't really stand out to me. This one does. I remember, it takes a lot for me to watch wrestling now with this huge, ridiculous smile on my face. But I enjoyed the hell out of this. What'd you think of it? Now, okay, Jesse, you didn't see this either, right?
I did not. It sounds like, man, if it tops ladder matches in Pat's eyes, this sounds like something I'm going to have to watch, though.
It's incredible. Yeah. I mean, that's high praise, and it's well deserved. Ronnie, what did you think of this? You laughed when I called it a car wreck.
I haven't seen it yet, which really surprises me because I usually make it a point to watch NXT before any of the big, any of the big shows like this, especially WrestleMania. Because I enjoy NXT a lot, and for the misses that they have on their big shows, NXT makes up for it tremendously in my opinion.
I'm kind of crossing my fingers that here in a couple weeks, Remix is having their they have 2 shows a year, and the last show, Adam Cole's girlfriend was wrestling and became champion. I don't know if she became champion or defended the championship here in Remix, and Adam Cole was backstage, unbeknownst to everybody, in the crowd, and he kept it that way. So I'm kind of hoping that will be the case this time, and maybe he'll just kind of peek his head outside the curtain. You never know. That's going to be in a couple weeks, though, so we'll see. But Adam Cole he's impressive. I've always liked watching at least some of his matches in the past. He was with Ring of Honor for a little while, right?
Yeah, a good little while when he really cemented his rep.
Yeah, I caught a few of his matches in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, I really dug this. It's probably one of my favorite matches of the weekend. I just want to touch on Shayna Baszler versus Ember Moon. Obviously, Ember Moon gave up the title because then she showed up on Raw as Nia Jax's partner. I like Shayna Baszler as a wrestler. I laughed when she won the belt because I snarkily turned and said, well, the only way she was winning a belt was if she won a fake one. But, good for her. I'm glad she's found a second life as a wrestler because she sure as shit wasn't going to find it in MMA. And I think, coming from MMA into wrestling, it gives her that edge. It gives her a ready-made character, and she's really running with it. So good for her. We'll see. Christ, she's doing better than fucking Billie Kay or the other broad, her partner there, have done.
Negative on that.
Oh, really? What have they accomplished?
They made their debut tonight.
Oh, did they? Okay. Oh, I know one of them was in the Battle Royal.
The Iconic Duo made their debut tonight officially on SmackDown.
Good for them. Take it back.
And yeah, I think Shayna Baszler is just trash.
Okay, I like what she's done so far. The only other thing I'll mention, and then we can move on. And finally, the Authors of Pain finally showed up on Raw. Which I was thrilled about. But getting ahead of ourselves. The Johnny Gargano Tommaso Ciampa match, I thought it was great. I thought it had a lot of heat to it, a lot of brutality, without it being a garbage match where they were hitting each other with lawnmowers or some shit like that. I thought as far as blood feuds go, and in the bloodless WWE, I thought they pulled it off, and it made Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa that much more interesting, in my opinion. Pat, anything on this one?
Johnny Gargano versus Ciampa is my early candidate for match of the year. I think it especially drew upon the story that's been building with them for close to a year now. I think the storytelling in it was just awesome. You combine that with some incredible work, real moments that play off of the past between them that everybody remembers who's followed them. Just so well put together. An amazing finish to it. This and to stand out like it did after not only the ladder match but the NXT title match, this was incredible between two just phenomenal workers with unbelievable chemistry, not only as partners but now as opponents. Blown away by it. Easily my early match of the year contender.
All right, Pat, any other thoughts on NXT? I thought it was a great card top to bottom. I don't think there was a bad match on here. As usual, I think NXT tends to be my favorite over the actual WrestleMania card. But your thoughts, sir, overall?
Overall, just probably the best complete show rating. This is probably the best so far of the year from any promotion, whether it's WWE, Ring of Honor, New Japan. I think this was the most fulfilling, best put together super show so far. Literally the only match I didn't like was Shayna Baszler and Ember Moon, because I think Shayna Baszler's work is terrible. Everything else I enjoyed thoroughly, and it had 3 matches on here that were just completely unbelievable. But the ladder match, Aleister Black and Andrade for the NXT title was great. I hope Andrade gets the call up, and Gargano Ciampa, like I said, is my early match of the year favorite.
I got to imagine going forward with Roderick Strong.
Roddy!
Yeah.
Joining the Undisputed Era. Roddy, not Ronnie. I would imagine with Roderick Strong in the Undisputed Era, Johnny Gargano spends the next year feuding with the Undisputed Era, kind of working his way through them.
God, God, I want to touch myself to the thought of Johnny versus Robbie on a regular basis.
Yeah, I got to imagine that at some point over the next year, we're going to see Gargano versus Cole for either the North American title or the NXT Championship. But
you know what's crazy too is that I just said that I want to touch myself to the thought of two guys in tights rolling around, and that's not even like the gayest thing I've said today.
Terrific. All right, WrestleMania 34, Jesse. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Give me your good, the bad, and the ugly here. I want to hear from you. We haven't heard a lot from you tonight, so I want you to take the ball and run with it, my friend. The good, the bad, and the ugly of WrestleMania 34. Go.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to think of my favorite moment of the night, and I honestly think it comes down to the Ronda Rousey match, where she teamed with Kurt Angle. Now, this was, this was supposed to be the christening of Ronda Rousey as she comes in, and has she worked at all on Raw? Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been able to tell, I've watched jack shit when it comes to wrestling coming up to WrestleMania. I mean, I think I watched Royal Rumble where she showed up, but has she done any work other than just promos and shit like that up until the match?
It's generous to call them promos, but we can call them that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually, I was into this match. This was a match that I really was invested in, and I think it had most of the most cinematic spots throughout most of what I saw through WrestleMania. Now, there were definite candidates for way better matches on the card, but when it comes to like cinematography, nothing will top, in my opinion, when she had Stephanie down and Stephanie is screaming, "Please do not put me in the armbar," basically begging for her life, and Ronda muscles her way in there and her fingers just inch apart to where she has her right there and Stephanie's begging, and then she finally locks it in and immediately taps. To me, for some reason, that deserved to be on film, and it spoke so much of a story. I mean, it's not much that we aren't going to really be surprised that Stephanie McMahon's acting like a total shitbag, but that's what she was supposed to do, and she portrayed that so well, in my opinion. All right, so that was probably my most memorable part of WrestleMania. Man, when it comes to the bad, all right, real easy. Okay, the bad is 7 hours of motherfucking WrestleMania. The bad is me going over to a friend's house that lives 45 minutes away so I can hang out with him and almost falling asleep in his chair because the main event it was like a dose of NyQuil. I digress.
Next time you just need to make it a weekend and come on down here and hang out.
Dude, I'm telling you, if I would have had a place to stay, I would have. I mean, that's what I should have done. I should have camped out at his house because he starts at 20 minutes late. And, it's rolling on at like 20 till. I'm trying to keep up a conversation with you guys on Instant Messenger through Facebook. And I swear, both of you're asleep. Mark Radulich is ignoring me. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, these guys are smart. They're at home and they're in their beds. So I continue to resent WrestleMania that much more because I'm sitting at somebody else's house and my friends are sleeping. So the length of this show was out of control. I didn't get home until 5 after 1, and I was mad, and I was really mad, because it just went on for so long.
And you missed the last 3 matches on that. No kidding.
Oh, I was going to say one. Wait a second. Now I'm really upset.
It was Bill Goldberg versus the Ghost of Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, Lord.
Well, it wouldn't have surprised me if no, never mind. I'm sure there's a reason as to why they ended it with the Brock Roman Reigns thing, which was I don't know how many times I can heave, because it was just a textbook match in my opinion. I'm so glad we got to see the same match. This is almost Cena Orton 95 times over, where you see it every time. Oh, all right, here goes here goes Roman Reigns. He's spearing and he's enough of that. The Ugly, because I'll let you guys harp on that, I'm sure. The Ugly, and people are going to hate me for this. That's our newest tag team champion, Nicholas. All right. So
I don't hate you for it.
I understand. I understand that. I would assume this is a Make-A-Wish kid. Is that correct? Anybody anybody confirm?
No.
He's the child of a ref.
Oh,
He is in the family.
I can hate this kid. Good. Good.
First of all, that's a
hate
disservice to the Make-A-Wish kids because they should be hated just as equally as everyone else.
Oh no!
You're treating them differently because of an impairment, and that is not fair, sir.
All right.
Those Make-A-Wish kids deserve just as much hate as anybody else.
I love the fact that Pat just gave a coherent argument to why we should hate the Make-A-Wish kids.
Well, this stems from my assumption here. Stems from actually going to my first Raw. My last Raw I went to up in Columbus, Ohio, and this was a few years back, where I was all ready to boo John Cena, and he comes out and he is doing something with the Make-A-Wish kids at that point. So I couldn't boo him at that point in time. So I thought, well, they're going to do the same thing. They have lined it up to make some kid's dream come true on WrestleMania, and he's going to be given a championship. And I was like, oh, well, okay, I guess I shouldn't hate, for them making some kid's dream come true. But now you're telling me that this is not the case. And I can legitimately really, wish that whoever came up with this idea should kick themselves in the balls somehow.
Well, there's no way they can get a real kid out of the audience up there because of insurance and everything else.
Dude,
because if you get a kid,
they get a real kid out in the audience. He tries to take down Cesaro.
Right. if the kid just does what he's supposed to do and stands there, and he's like, and he's sick anyway if he's a Make-A-Wish kid, and then all of a sudden Sheamus accidentally gives him the big boot to the face and knocks him into the third row. I mean, there's going to be lawsuits and to say the least.
I'd pay money. I would absolutely pay money for that.
I believe every word you're saying. That's why I thought they didn't. I mean, he wasn't. If he was taking shots at the wrestlers, I might have said, "Oh, okay, well, this is clearly work." But he wasn't doing any of that. He actually looked like if you looked at him, he had like a bracelet on. I was like, "Oh man, he's got a medical bracelet on and everything." Jeez, this poor kid. I hope he's okay.
There's that one kid that was following Braun Strowman around like, "Pick me," and he's. The
little fat kid with the glasses.
Yeah, but it was just to see Sheamus punt a child into the third row. I mean, that would be pretty funny.
Let me tell you the most salient point that my wife made this morning when I was telling her about that match, and that's horrible. That kid should have been in bed. I was like, yes, you're right. He should have been in bed.
All right,
he's got homework.
If you listen to freaking Corny on his podcast, and so
well, goddamn, what the fuck? I mean, these guys they come in and ruin the fucking business, and goddamn, we didn't have no kids in there. How you supposed to sell for a fucking 9-year-old? Goddamn, what the fuck?
Right? One of his targets of his vitriol is Kenny Omega. And because Kenny Omega,
I knew this is where this was going to go.
Comes in and has a goddamn match with a fucking 12-year-old girl, and he's selling for her. I mean, goddamn, lay some shit in there. Fucking hit this girl, knock her damn teeth down her throat, protect the fucking business. Goddamn, what the fuck?
But I don't know how. I can't wait to hear what he says about this, because if he doesn't rip this apart, then he is a hypocrite. Because
this fucking.
Okay, Pat.
12-year-old goddamn kid that they pull out of the fucking audience.
Has Jim Cornette been on a show with Jesse Ventura? Because if not, that should happen tonight.
Goddamn, every fucking guy who's ever been in that company, whether it's damn Heavenly Bodies or fucking Jake the Snake Roberts, never held a goddamn title there. But this fucking 11-year-old kid's gonna be a world tag team champion. God fucking, what the fuck?
But I mean, seriously, he's all over Kenny Omega for having a match against a blow up doll, and then he rips into him about having the match against that little girl, which that little girl can work, but because I've seen that match. But then WWE pulls this crap against. I actually enjoy the Bar. I like them as a tag team. I think they work, for being two people that were just thrown together because they have nothing else for them. I think they work. I think they do good. They have good charisma, and their entrance was my favorite of the night, minus Charlotte. Charlotte just gave me chills. I loved it. But I mean, to treat these two like this. I mean, I understand that Braun Strowman's your new Man Mountain, unbeatable monster or whatever. Unless he goes against Brock, then all bets are off. But it's just it's a shame that they did these guys like that and put a kid. All he did was just stand there and pick his butt on the side of the ring.
I hated that I almost spoiled that for you before you had the chance to watch it. And when you woke up, and I was like, I think I put in there Nicholas just tagged in and it's 10 after midnight or some bullshit like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this cannot end. We had 2 more matches to go or 1 more match to go, and I was like, this can't end soon enough.
I think it's disgraceful. I mean, I'll go as far as that. I mean, it's just one of those things where, I mean, this was just this was the absolute lowest point of the night for me.
Fucking Randy Savage never held a goddamn tag team championship in the fucking match. Built a goddamn business and he never fucking held that title. You put the goddamn title on a fucking 12-year-old boy, it looks like spends more time in the ladies' bathroom not knowing where to go and Target. And
if it wasn't for the announcers clearing it up that was a young boy, I would have went to bed thinking that it was an intergender match, and somehow this girl won a tag team championship with Braun Strowman.
Look, I have a counter argument to all. I have a counter argument to all of this.
Of course you do.
Hey,
what are you doing?
Let Jim Cornette say his piece.
Goddamn, what the fuck? Extra cheese, motherfucker.
Extra cheese.
Boy, if you don't listen to any of the Jim Cornette podcasts, you're not understanding any of this.
You just have. Let me put it that way, because
yeah, really.
That's pretty much the only thing that Cornette says.
I want to talk about the Ronda Rousey match, but let's get into this Braun Strowman thing real quick. Look, I didn't love it. I didn't love that. I didn't love that they could have just done Braun Strowman versus The Bar and have him beat both guys. Be like, I'm my own tag team partner, and then the next night on Raw, say,
You know what I didn't love, motherfucker? I didn't love your goddamn fucking apologists, and I'm gonna pull you over this goddamn table and beat the fuck out of you. You treat me like the goddamn guy at the fucking county fair running the Ferris wheel. It all goes back to the wrestling thing.
Are you done?
Pat, do you have meds that you didn't take tonight or something?
No, this is why I have Pat on.
I know.
To just randomly burst into.
I'm kidding.
Damn it, Jim.
Look, here's the thing. They could have said, they could have just done Braun Strowman versus The Bar. He beats The Bar, and he becomes tag team champion by himself. Not the first time that has happened. And then the next night on Raw, Kurt Angle says, give me the belt or get a partner. Your choice. And he just says, take the fucking belts. I don't need them. I was just making a point. That would have been fine, too.
You value the tag team titles completely?
Yeah, because they have a lot of value as it is currently. The titles aren't props or anything. Look, they're fake belts. Who cares?
I got an idea, bro.
Swerve, bro. That being said, the whole gimmick was that Braun Strowman was, can go it alone and he's the monster. And does it really, whether he picked a kid or he picked some jobber or he picked, an actual wrestler in the back or Gilbert, or if he went in alone or if he brought in a fucking, a blow-up doll. I actually, just to piss Jim Cornette off, I would have brought in the blow-up doll, Joey Ryan, and the girl that Kenny Omega wrestled.
I think they should have just gone with Braun wearing a disguise and crawling under the ring and coming back out as Brains Strowman.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that would have been amazing.
If there was a way to have gotten Brain Strowman in the match, I would have been all for that. But look, like I said,
Braun Strowman.
That's an actual thing, Jesse.
Nice.
Look, again, this was the whole idea was to sell Braun Strowman as, as good as two people, if not better, and they did that. So does it really matter that he picked a kid? And it's not like the next night they went and defended the titles and the poor kid had to get back in the ring again. They just gave back the belts. It's a story. It's a gimmick. Who cares? All right.
Let me ask real quick. How long did they build up this? I'm going to have a partner, or who's your partner thing?
I don't know, 2 weeks.
They've been telling him he had to have a partner for about 3 weeks.
Okay. So
Maybe more.
Was he playing it off like, okay, I don't need anybody, or was he?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, that makes sense.
And then finally, on the Go Home Raw, he goes, I got a partner, and he's coming out right now. And then he goes in the back and puts on a shirt, tie, and glasses like Clark Kent, and that was Braun Strowman.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Hey, Pat, you've been watching the Mixed Match Challenge. Have they finished that yet?
Yeah.
Who won that?
Asuka and The Miz.
Oh, okay. See, to me, the way that they should have done it was
Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, they should have had Alexa Bliss wearing a T-shirt that says "Get these hands."
The problem, though, is that Mixed Match Challenge apparently is to actual WWE continuity what If is to the Marvel continuity, where it doesn't actually exist within that plane of reality. Because nothing from that was ever acknowledged outside of that show.
Okay. But I like they should have had Alexa Bliss drop the title to Nia Jax to Nia Jax earlier in the show, and then have Braun Strowman come out and say, "I have a partner." Have Alexa Bliss come out and have them win the tag team titles.
Well,
that would have been fine.
Team Little Big was the best thing they've done in weeks, and we all wanted to see Alexa Bliss get those hands, just off camera, and it just made perfect sense. But making perfect sense is not what we do here. Swerve, bro.
All right, let's move on. Go ahead, Ronnie. Last words, and then we're moving on from this.
Yeah, I'm just an Alexa Bliss fan, and that whole match disappointed me.
Okay, well, Jesse, did you finish? Because I feel like I said, give me the good, the bad, and the ugly, and all we did was talk about Braun Strowman and the stupid
No. My good was the Ronda Rousey match. My bad was the length of WrestleMania, and the ugly was Nicholas.
Pat, how Memphis was that Ronda Rousey match booked? I mean, was that the most Memphis thing you've seen in years?
Other than the promoter not going over, yes.
I mean, that was.
I will say this: Ronda did better than I thought she would. I still wouldn't say she did well. She still can't sell worth a damn. She still throws punches because, she still doesn't know how to punch. She didn't know how to punch as a fighter. She still doesn't know how to punch. The bit with her, hitting Triple H where he's like, what are you doing? That was entertaining to me for the wrong reasons. Because I still don't understand how he just didn't wring her neck or whatever to stop it. But, that's me, and apparently my views are more in line with 1955 than 2018, and that's wrong somehow.
I had this image that, they're going over stuff in the back, and, Triple H and Stephanie are talking to Ronda, well, Ronda, this is your big debut. We want to make it, we have a lot of stuff planned to really get you over. What's some of the things you want to do in the match? And in her mind, she's going, I want to make it look like I could have beat Holly Holm. And
I just imagine him going over there. What are we going to do? I'm going to punch you.
That's what I mean. She went into the Holly. Quick side note: she went into the Holly Holm fight thinking she's a boxer, forgetting that her bread and butter is breaking arms and hearts. And she went into that stupid fight with a championship boxer, thinking I'm gonna punch you, and Holly Holm kicked her fucking head off. And I think Ronda still has PTSD from that. She's like she just wakes up in the middle of the night going, I can punch. Oh shit, I was sleeping. So any spot she does where she's throwing punches, I think she's right back in that Holly Holm fight again. Just thinking I could have done this. I could punch. I'm a boxer for reals. I cut you off there, but I just had to share that with you.
No, but it was very Memphis in terms of overbooking with referee distraction and man, woman, whatever. And it was what it was. I was just happy to see Kurt Angle in a ring at WrestleMania because Kurt Angle's still the man. If you let him, he can still hit the gas to 0 to 65 in seconds and go in there with AJ Styles or whoever and have a great match. So I was just happy that Kurt, more than anything, got that chance to have a little bit of a moment there. I really did want Triple H and Stephanie to win, though, just because so many people would have been so butthurt about it. And honestly, this is how you're going to divide the cool chicks from the not cool chicks this year. So on Halloween, when you're out bar hopping or whatever, if you see a girl dressed in the same attire Ronda wore, if she says for Halloween she's Slutty Roddy Piper, she's a keeper. If she says she's Ronda, she's fucking trash and just high fakes her away from you.
A couple of things about this match, and then we can move on. One, for its entertainment value, on two levels, it was my favorite of the entire night. Number one, because the actual match itself, like I said, when I say Memphis, that's not a detriment to the match. It was highly entertaining. I mean, work rate wise, it was for shit.
Memphis sucked.
But as far as good old fashioned wrestling, where you get a lot of heat on the heels, and the heels are dastardly, the faces are righteous. It was fantastic, and everyone played their role really, really well. But my favorite part of the match had nothing to do with what anyone did in the match per se. It was watching it with my 7-year-old daughter, who's looking at me and looking at Stephanie McMahon and going, oh, she's not supposed to do that. She's cheating. Is she supposed to do, screaming at the television at Stephanie and Triple H for being heels?
Oh, nice.
And it's like when you can get that earnest of a reaction, when Jim Cornette talks about the old ladies wanting to throw pipe bombs at fucking wrestlers in Memphis, we're so far removed from those kinds of reactions where it gets into your soul. And so to watch my daughter have a similar kind of reaction to the heels the way you're supposed to, because I mean, when you think about it, look at all, let's go back to NXT for a second. Adam Cole is a heel, but he was cheered by the entire NXT audience. They all yelled out Adam Cole, baby. EC3, the top, everyone's favorite 1%er, is a heel, and people were cheering him. So it's it's cool to cheer the heel. It has been since the 90s. But then you have the 7-year-old who's just oh my God, I hate them. They're terrible people. How could they cheat like that? It's not fair. It made my heart, it's oh, that's why I watch wrestling. The other thing I kept thinking about was when they did the table spot, and I had this flashback moment to SummerSlam where the table collapsed as they were doing the pedigree spot and knocked Kurt Angle out. And I'm oh, please
recreate. I think everybody thought that.
I was please recreate that spot. Kill Kurt Angle on a table.
We're just waiting for that table to break out from underneath them way ahead of time, and nobody's prepared, and Kurt Angle dies.
I was waiting for it, man. I lost it in front of my kids and my wife, and it was just kill Kurt Angle, come on! I was I don't have anything against Kurt Angle. I just wanted to see that spot again where he almost died. Ronnie Adams, the good, the bad, and the ugly of WrestleMania. Go.
The good was the Ronda Rousey match. I thought I'm on the opposite end of Patrick. I think she looked really good in the ring. I tuned in just to see if it was going to be a car wreck or not, a train wreck or not. I thought it was going to be just somebody roll a dumpster in the middle of the ring and set it on fire,
and then push Cactus Jack into it.
Right. That would have made it better. But I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised that how well she did, and I got into the match. I was much like your daughter. I was I was cheering them on, and I was really happy to see that she has put some work in, and at the end of the match when she was smiling and hugging Kurt, and wouldn't let go, and he almost looked halfway uncomfortable, okay, you got to let go now. But it just seems like she's genuinely happy to be there, to be a part of it. And So I was really into it. Let's see, the bad. I'm sorry, the bad for me is going to be Brock keeping the Brock and Roman. There was no way I could cheer anybody on in this match. There were no good outcomes for me whatsoever.
This is awful. This is awful.
It was just a terrible match for me all around.
Have you heard? Have you heard the behind the scenes
no matter
stuff about
who
that match?
won? No, it's just no matter who won, I was not going to be happy. But what about the behind the scenes?
So I don't know if you've heard this either, Pat. But I read today that going into the match, the Roman Reigns was supposed to win. In the middle of the match, they got word down to Brock and Roman. Swerve, bro. We're switching it to Brock. The crowd hates you.
The crowd hates who? Which one?
The crowd hates Roman Reigns.
Okay, please specify, because I happen to hate them both.
So the crowd hates Roman Reigns, and Vince decided, let's punt on this. We're still going to make him champion, and I guess he's going to feud with Samoa Joe. More on that in a little bit. But we're going to punt on this. We're going to keep the title on Brock. Brock's going to re-sign with Paul Heyman, at least for the short term, and we'll put the title on Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia.
Mm.
Is that a question?
That doesn't make me happy.
That's the plan. That's at least what I've read.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. I heard that because of the renegotiation with Brock, they were like, how can we get Lashley over real fast? And they're going to have Brock apparently work with Roman again in Saudi Arabia because it'll still be something that the audience, I guess, they feel that they want to see. And then they're going to move with Lashley versus Brock, which I don't think it's a bad idea, but I don't think it needs to be the world title. I don't think it needs to be the world title program.
No, I think take the title off of Brock. Put it
I'm sorry, Universal title.
Put it on Roman Reigns. Have Roman Reigns feud with Samoa Joe first, and then have have him work with Bobby Lashley down the line, and then they can move Bobby Lashley over to Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam and have Roman Reigns do something else.
Also, I'm just saying, I know this is a little bit off topic, but signing Bobby Lashley back. Do they forget that when they released him, they really didn't have a reason to release him at the time either? They pushed him and everything was seemingly swimmingly fine, and all of a sudden just, we're going to release him. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I thought he asked for his release because he wanted to go do MMA.
I don't think so. I think they just kind of spur of the moment released him, and it was just okay, I'm going to go to TNA now.
No, I thought
and then he didn't do the TNA or the MMA for a couple of years.
I thought this was another situation where his broad got ill favor with the office, and so she got canned, and then he was like, "Well, if she's getting canned, then I want out too." I just remember Bobby Lashley not being happy. He's another one not happy with the business, not happy with the WWE, and was like, "I'll just go do something else." And then he ended up in Strikeforce for a few years. And then TNA.
No, they released him after he had shoulder surgery.
Oh, maybe. Because I know he was a big part of ECW there for a while.
Yeah, he was in an angle with Vince. You don't get higher profile than being in a feud with Vince.
Oh, that's
he
right.
He was Donald Trump's chosen champion.
I was going to say, he had the fight against Umaga, didn't he, at WrestleMania?
Yes. He was the avatar for the President of the United States.
That makes sense. Yeah, I remember that. Is there anybody left in TNA at this point, or has everybody at this point come back? I feel like the only one left.
Everybody's.
Go ahead.
I mean, even Storm is gone.
James Storm. Storm left. He was the last guy I could think of.
But they have Austin Aries back, so that's good.
Yeah, Austin Aries.
Oh, I mean, I was so excited for him to come to WWE, and then his attitude and his ego got the best of him, and then I was ready for him to go.
Yeah. Okay, so your good was Ronda Rousey. Your bad was Your bad
Braun.
was Brock and Roman. What was your ugly?
Yeah. Ugly was a tie. Ugly was a tie with Jinder Mahal winning the U.S. Championship, U.S. title, and
Racist.
The Kid. Oh my gosh, I just don't like him.
Back knee Mahal.
Back Mahal.
Nice.
Wow. Yep.
Oh, poor Jinder. He tries so hard. All right, Pat, you're...
What, I mean, to find a new place to stick the needle?
Don't pick on Jinder. You guys wanted something different for you wanted something different for SmackDown, then you complain when they threw it on the Indian. Pat,
what? No. That's not it. How it goes at all. And don't bring the Indian into it. I just don't like Jinder Mahal as a wrestler. I think he's a choice.
The proper term is Native American.
All right, Pat, you're good, the bad, and the ugly of WrestleMania. Go.
Good would be the opening triple threat match for the Intercontinental title. I thought it was the best match on the show. Even if The Miz lost, which is unfortunate, I think the action was probably the best. It was a pretty decent developed feud going into it. Nobody looked out of place or uncomfortable. I thought the match delivered and was a strong opener for the actual WrestleMania portion of the show. The bad would be so much to pick from. The bad would be the Kid. Good Lord, that was a terrible idea. The ugly, again, so much to pick from. But to me, what was the point of Undertaker John Cena?
Yes, finally, someone said it.
No.
Ugh.
No.
Oh,
We're not alone.
No, you know what makes it even uglier is John Cena running up the ramp at the end of that Asuka Charlotte match, and I'm sitting there, I'm going, that took a lot away from, because I thought that was a pretty decent match, and they had to force John Cena in there.
Charlotte Flair kind of looking at John Cena like, nice to steal my moment, dick.
No kidding. Yeah, just a fake ass smile, and she's like, was that John Cena? And I bet she turned her head and was like, motherfucker.
Yeah, fuck Charlotte. She only has a moment because her dad, and he sucked too.
Ooh, that would be a hot take, sir. A hot take.
That's not the first time you said that, and Pat and I are known for agreeing on the fact that Ric Flair sucks.
Oh, congratulations, you're both wrong. All right.
Yeah, good job. Here's the deal, though. They just needed to redeem the crap hand that he was dealt with Brock and Roman. You can't let a legend like The Undertaker go out like that. I'm sorry, you can't.
He sucked too.
Well, look.
No, you know what?
He sucked.
I've had enough of you, Pat.
His streak, first of all, the streak was meaningless. Okay?
Hang on, Pat. Remember when we did an entire Casual Heroes episode tearing down The Undertaker's career bit by bit?
Yeah.
Remember that? Oh, good times.
Best show ever.
Like an hour and a half of us saying nothing The Undertaker did was ever good.
It wasn't.
It was.
He's done shit. If he wasn't working with Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels or Mick Foley, his matches sucked. He spent the first 7 years of his career walking around not selling anything and choking people, doing jack shit, not having any good matches.
Look at the company and the era he was in.
Eyes into the back of his head. What was different about him and the Warrior? Nothing. They were cartoons with limited ability, and then all of a sudden he wore purple, and he added 3 moves to his repertoire. But meanwhile, he was working with Bret and working with Shawn and all these guys who were, the best of the best. So of course his matches aren't going to be the worst. And then meanwhile, when it was up to him to carry the match, he couldn't do it. They talk about how, he had to work with the Giants. They weren't the best guys. Fucking Bret Hart had to work with fucking shit guys all the time, and he made them look great. Shawn Michaels had to work with shit guys, and he made them look great. Taker's shit sucked because Taker sucked.
Okay. All right.
Fucking
please.
You know what?
Please.
I don't know who. Wait. No, I don't know who hurt you, Pat, but you need to let it go.
Please tell us why you didn't like
it out.
So, please tell us. Okay, there we go. I'm glad you finished that. Please explain why you didn't like the match between Cena and The Undertaker. What made you think that was ugly?
What was the purpose of this? It accomplished nothing. There is nothing gained from this. You take
if John Cena had taken out his
career out at this point, but at the same time, he's going to be around a lot more than The Undertaker is. And if you're going to pin a loss on him, you do it in 2 minutes and 30 seconds when he gets no offense in.
45 seconds. I'm looking at the wiki.
2:45, excuse me. I estimated. I apologize. 2:40, where he gets no offense in, gets completely squashed by a guy who is not physically capable of going longer than 2 minutes and 45 seconds in the span of a calendar year. And on top of that, if you want to talk about Jinder being the poster boy for back knee, as soon as Taker pulled those straps down, his back looked like a 14-year-old kid's face who loves chocolate.
I will tell you this. I am in complete agreement with Pat in regards to that match because
Jesse, shut your mouth.
No, that match was ridiculous. He used the term squash, and that's the exact same word that I used when I looked over at my friend who's a huge Taker mark, and I said, this was ridiculous. All Taker did was walk into that ring and get every single one of his, Taker moves in, other than the last ride. That's the one thing you didn't see. You saw old school, and it was almost like a fucking succession of every Taker move, and then he's done. I'm like, this made no sense. This should have been. I understand the apology. This is your apology. Hey, we should have never ended the streak or whatever.
You do the fucking honors. You go out.
You've had your chance, Pat.
All right, Ronnie. Let me hear what you have to say. Why? Tell me why.
I think it was an apology for letting a legend like The Undertaker go out on a sour note and lose to two guys he shouldn't have lost to. The ending of the streak had there was when they ended the streak it meant nothing. There was nothing.
This
to
match
it. Why?
meant nothing.
Hold on. I don't know who hurt you, Jesse.
God damn, where's my beer?
But the thing about oh god, I'm so flustered right now.
Let me jump in here, okay? A couple of things, because
okay. Well, let me finish my thought. It was an apology because the way they ended the streak was crap. The fact that they put Roman Reigns over on him was crap, and I think it was Cena was in on it, or at least he had to agree to it wholeheartedly, otherwise it wouldn't have happened.
Well, sure.
I mean, Cena's got that much stroke in the company, that he can say, no, I don't want to do that, and they're not going to make him do it.
Well, this match is not the Taker's fault. This is all, I don't blame just solidly Taker as to what's going on here. This is all the back. All these people making these decisions, and this was not a good decision in any way.
No,
right.
Well, you can say that, but the fact of the matter, I mean, I understand that it doesn't mean anything, and I get that. But for guys like me who have been an Undertaker fan for years, it meant a lot that they let him go out on a high note.
This is not a good match.
Why should he go out on a high note? When you go out, you do the honors.
Because he gave okay. No, I could, no matter what I say, y'all are going to disagree with it, so I'm done.
I agree with you, Ronnie, that he should have went out on a high note. This was not a high note.
But if you're gonna go out on a high note, you don't do a fucking squash over the greatest fucking guy you ever had and bury him. You let him go out.
You were obviously way more angry about this than I've ever been in my life.
Taker sucks. He's the fucking worst.
Let me tell you a couple of things. One, I had even when they going back a few months when they floated the idea of John Cena versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania, I was like, well, at least it's something different for John Cena. And had they actually built to a real match, I might have been interested. When the story was, will The Undertaker even show up to WrestleMania, I stopped caring. And then they did the bit with John Cena in the audience, and it's like, I know where this is going. And unless they do a swerve, bro, where it's not the Undertaker who comes out, it's fucking Samoa Joe, and Samoa Joe fucking throws John Cena through a table. I'm not going to be... there was no way they was just going to capture my interest. However, I also know that I'm not in the majority. That's a minority opinion. That there are people in the audience who see John Cena do anything, no matter how... He could have jerked off on a camera. People would be like, Yahoo! John Cena! Same thing goes for The Undertaker. The Undertaker shows up, drops his pants in the ring, shows everyone his dick. Everyone's like, yes! Undertaker. That's what we came here for. Undertaker penis. All right? That's
hey, I got my deal.
Yeah, I got my deal. So, I get... That's the thing. Every year, WrestleMania does some sort of backstage sketch, where Brother Love runs out and, humps the leg of somebody, and somebody else runs in, and Ron Simmons yells, damn. There's always some 5-minute stupid sketch they do. This year, they said, what if we did the sketch in the ring? That's what this was. This wasn't... That's why, to me, this made my ugly list as well. Not necessarily because The Undertaker won or whatever. Because I didn't care if John Cena pinned him. I didn't really care that he won. My point is they didn't do anything to make me care about that entire segment. And either of their cult of personalities wasn't enough for me to care. For some people, for a lot of people, probably it was. Obviously, for Ronnie, it is. For Jesse, it is. For myself and Pat, not really. So my last word on this, my last word on this before we move on.
I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Is
Ronnie's pissed? He's fired up.
Like if they had,
I'm just sitting here with a hot garbage tire fire that was Brock versus Roman on the screen right now, and people are mad over Undertaker and John Cena
because it was garbage,
was
dude.
Absolute trash.
It was, dude.
What garbage? Did you watch the main event? You watched the main event where some.
That was a real match.
Shaving Eddie in the middle of the ring with a no-talent hack like Roman Reigns, and you draw a little blood and everybody gets crazy.
You're telling me you're trying to talk about The Undertaker to me and saying Roman's got no talent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. How about that? That's
Ronnie,
exactly
do me a favor.
How I
feel. Stop.
How about we put Roman in a top hat and a trench coat, tell him not to sell nothing, and choke everybody? God damn.
All right, take it.
They pretty much did. Like right now, he's hanging off of Vince's nuts.
Ronnie, can you take a Xanax?
By the last ball here.
Can you, Ronnie, take a Xanax? Take a breath. Start with a breath. Work your way towards Xanax. Michael Hayes, back to your corner, please. Go fucking sing and dance for a moment in your rebel flag robe. Look, I'm not going to compare the Brock Lesnar-Roman Reigns match to the sketch that was the Undertaker John Cena bit. Okay. Because that's to me the difference. You want to talk about you don't like Brock Lesnar, you don't like Roman Reigns, and you didn't like their match. That's a whole other discussion with a different set of issues. To me, this was they tried to tell this ridiculous story, and instead they took away Charlotte's moment. They gave John Cena nothing. They gave The Undertaker nothing, and it was just a silly sketch in the middle of the ring that took. I mean, it was they're saying it's 2 minutes and 45 seconds. That's not even counting the time with Elias and everything else. This was just a waste of time. That's my biggest issue with it, is that John Cena goes from being like the main event, and like even last year when he was in an attraction match where at the end of it he got to propose to his girlfriend. At least that was a moment. That was a fun thing for all the chicks in Orlando. This year, and he goes from like that to doing a sketch with The Undertaker. And why? Because everyone in the back and everyone in the office still is like, oh, it's the WrestleMania. We're going to drag this fucker out every year till he's dead because people expect The Undertaker to be at WrestleMania. And it's just like, come on, at some point, turn the page, evolve, move this on. And so it's like, if you're going to do a match with The Undertaker, do a match, build it up.
Exactly.
Don't give me hot garbage in the middle of the ring and expect me to react the same way. Because to me, I thought, and this might be, sort of a ridiculous take in some people's minds, but to me, I think it takes away from the actual matches on the card where people were trying. Like I said, The Undertaker just busts out his hits and John Cena sells for him like he's fucking Shawn Michaels. Just bumping all over the place. Whatever. you might not like Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns, and you might think Roman Reigns can't work, and I wouldn't disagree with you. But at least that was a match, and at least they tried, sort of.
It's the exact same match that I've seen them do a million times.
But the key word is match.
I'm sorry. I mean,
I'm not getting all excited for the Undertaker John Cena Saturday Night Live sketch that they did.
Welcome to Saturday Night.
This was. I wanted to give Pat his good, bad, and ugly. So, Pat, anything more on this?
No, I think we've said enough.
Yeah, boy, that entire conversation took longer than the actual bit did. That's
the truth.
All right, so my good, bad, and the ugly. As far as work rate goes, my two favorite matches of the night were Charlotte, Asuka, and the Seth Rollins, Miz, Finn Balor match. Like I said, both matches I thought the work was phenomenal, and they were probably the highlights of the card. As far as like attractions and most fun watching, Ronda Rousey, Kurt, Stephanie, Triple H, and actually the Daniel Bryan, Shane McMahon, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. Dude, I love Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn yelling at people, "Look what you made me do!" Like fucking domestic violence husbands.
They are perfect heels together. I mean, it's amazing to see what they're doing with one another, and I'm just glad that they're using Sami Zayn for something.
Mm-hmm.
Something. I don't. It's he's just too talented for them to waste.
Wasn't it not too long ago that those guys were like on the outs and like people were thinking that they were going to be done or?
Yeah,
I think
something happened overseas or whatever.
Okay. Well, I'm glad they're still around because I enjoy them.
My bad was the Fatal 4-Way. It just wasn't a good match. It was way short. It was only 8 minutes and 15 seconds. I don't really care that. God, who even won the? Oh, Jinder Mahal. I don't really care that Jinder Mahal won the title. I like Jinder. I think he makes for a fun heel. I liked when he was SmackDown champion. I thought, this is at least fun and interesting and different. I would have preferred if Bobby Roode had won, or Rusev, and I would have preferred if Randy Orton was hit by a truck. But none of those things happened.
I'm glad you feel the same way about Orton that I do.
I just thought it was
agree on that.
I just thought it was a terribly worked match. I thought it was the worst worked match. Because, I mean, like, some of the other ones, like the tag team match was inoffensive. It was 5 minutes, almost 6 minutes long. The Nia Jax, Alexa Bliss, both of them, it worked. I mean, I don't think they didn't work well. It was fine for what it was. AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura was fine. Was it a 4-star classic? Meh. I don't know. It didn't leave an impressionable memory for me, but it wasn't the worst thing ever. The ugly, I agree with you guys. The stupidest thing the equally stupid was John Cena Undertaker, but we have now spent 12 hours on that. But I would say equally stupid was the Nicholas thing, but I'm not as passionately against it as the rest of you guys. So, all in all, this was not the worst WrestleMania I've seen. I'm glad Daniel Bryan's back. I ugly cried when he won the title at WrestleMania 30. I'm glad he's back and able to wrestle again. The one disappointment is there were none of the entrances were as hilarious as any of Triple H's entrances have been for the last 3 years.
Right.
Not last year was just him riding the motorcycle. And Seth Rollins coming out with the torch. So the 3 years prior to that one, where he showed up at WrestleMania 30 in the crown and everything, and all the NXT chicks were dressed up. That one was hilarious. The Terminator one's still my favorite.
Oh yes,
the Terminator.
That was so bad.
The Terminator entrance was so funny. And to me, still the best entrance ever is Rusev's. Like that year, just had a bunch of really great entrances.
On the tank,
Rusev on the tank. Yeah,
Yep.
Nothing has beaten Rusev on the tank yet, and nothing this year did. Like somebody wrote Seth Rollins did a Game of Thrones entrance. I had to be told that because I had no idea, and I watched Game of Thrones.
I thought that was Game of Thrones.
He was a White Walker.
Yeah, the New Day had some fun entrances. This year was, this year
I forgot all about the pancake midgets.
Short stacks.
Not only were they pancake
seriously,
midgets, they were retard pancake midgets.
Oh, no. Apparently, I resemble one of them.
Aww.
That was my highlight of the night. When
I don't think you're downsy, Jesse.
I appreciate that, Pat. I do.
My biggest disappointment of the night, though,
is you're missing out. I think they're missing out on a big opportunity by not calling them short stacks.
Short stack. I love it.
I have been waiting for Finn Balor to be in a match at WrestleMania so I could see him do the Demon in a stadium, and I got robbed of that. Huh?
Oh, he had a demon going, all right.
Oh, stop it. And instead, and this is what I wanted to say before. They've turned, and it's probably going to be my last point, and then we're going to work towards ending the show here. But they've turned Finn Balor from something special with the demon character into just another guy. Like, if I had no idea.
He's not just another guy.
Who he bangs in his private time is his business. Not something I'm going to judge him for.
I saw a meme on Facebook where it just had this stick figure and it said Finn Balor over it, and then on the other side it had something that said Demon King, and he was reaching out towards that, and then in the next panel it had this big cuddly thing coming up behind him and grabbing him, and he's turning and looking back, and it says rainbows. I was like, okay, so I missed the entrance. So apparently
I think the Balor Club is located down the block from the Blue Oyster Club.
Oh, no!
He had an LGBTQTXYZ club come in with him.
Gotcha.
Seriously,
okay. I see now. I didn't see the entrance. I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, they were all in his shirt with his symbol, and the symbol is rainbow. Has the rainbow in it and everything. That's why his tights were like that.
Would that have been more appropriate for the WrestleMania in Orlando? Womp womp. He went there.
It's a living.
Don't go there, Pat. You live there.
All right.
Hot takes.
Hot takes. Serving up hot takes and hot cakes, baby.
Jesse,
stacks. I'm telling you,
Jesse, 50 words or less on WrestleMania. Whatever, anything left unsaid. Go.
Sure. When it comes to this is WrestleMania 34, and I would probably say for myself, it goes in the bottom 10 somewhere. I'd say.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Bottom 10.
Dude, I could rattle off 10 right now that were far worse than this one.
Okay. I don't know that I could.
11, right. 9, let's see.
2.
2 ziffy. There were definitely some in the Cena years that were so... God, the one in Phoenix. Ugh.
Oh, that was rough.
So you're saying that there are far worse WrestleManias in the bottom 10, in your bottom 10 than mine. So what do you think of that? All right. Well,
I don't remember the Phoenix one.
I'll pull it up for you while he's talking.
I just wasn't impressed. I was very upset about the length of this WrestleMania. I'm an old man. We've talked about the demographic. We were just talking about the demographic on our Ringside show on Source Material, and we realized that it's made for kids, and now I understand that young whippersnappers...
WrestleMania 32 in Dallas was 100 times worse than this one. Oh, God, I was there live for that. Ugh.
Okay, I'm looking at the Phoenix show. The Phoenix show definitely had some ugly, but it also had things that were very good. So I can't say that Phoenix was anywhere near as bad as this.
Shawn Michaels Taker, whoop-de-doo.
John Cena, Batista.
Shawn Michaels Taker, whoop-de-doo.
Sean carried Dead Man to another classic.
I feel like the last New York show, that was John Cena.
Rock 2.
Right. Triple H defeated Brock Lesnar.
That was good.
The Undertaker defeated CM Punk in a bullshit match.
They both suck.
Yeah, Alberto Del Rio, Jack Swagger. Yuck. Oh, Fandango beat Chris Jericho. Mm-hmm.
My point.
Yeah.
I feel like the only match on this one that I even gave a shit about that year was the Shield versus Big Show, Randy Orton, and Sheamus.
That was good.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Well, that's all right.
Keep going while I cut you off and tell you how many other WrestleManias I hated.
Please, make a list. It looks like I'm not interested in watching Raw, which I thought this would hopefully spark a renaissance for me. I used to watch wrestling every Monday for the longest time, and I'm waiting for that one time
Hang on one
where I
second.
want to get back in. Yes.
The Raw
Jerk.
The WrestleMania the WrestleMania in Georgia was so bad they had to bring The Rock out to fucking save it. For the next 2 years, by the way. This was
that where Miz retained the championship?
Yes.
What a moment in time.
This was the one with Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler.
What a moment.
Oh, wow. That was bad.
Michael Cole, who is now undefeated at WrestleMania, riding the high point of his career when he was the most entertaining commentator ever, just calling people out for being terrible, ringing a big gong on NXT. God bless you, Michael Cole, for those years.
Yeah, this was the WrestleMania that was so bad they rehired fucking Brock Lesnar. They brought in The Rock. They were like, yeah, we can't do WrestleManias without, part-time people anymore, or no one will watch. This is terrible.
My gosh, this was a good show.
Ugh. This is the one where Edge defeats Alberto Del Rio and retires the next night. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Sheamus beat Daniel Bryan in 18 seconds, which is great.
I'm just not as enamored with wrestling as I used to be. And I really do feel that, if the WWE wants to bring me back as a fan, okay, it's...
Characters?
Please? Something, I don't know. Let's take up the average age of a tag team champion a little bit, I guess. We'll do that while we're at it.
Let's not just have skinny guys with swimmers' physiques who can put on 5-star matches but don't have a personality that you can readily identify.
I am hoping that I have the opportunity to watch some more pay-per-views this year as it may happen. Maybe I'll get back into it. But WrestleMania 34 just... there were some bright spots, but unfortunately it didn't capture my imagination. It did make me dream a little dream, as I almost fell asleep a couple times. But
you didn't swap bodies with an older neighbor because of some magic sunglasses?
I don't understand the reference. Please help me.
Deep cut. It's a deep cut.
WrestleMania 25. Triple H defeats Randy Orton in a match that's so boring I'm still asleep because of it. John Cena defeats Big Show and Edge in a match no one gave a shit about. The Undertaker defeated Shawn Michaels for the first time. It was the only highlight on this thing. Rey Mysterio defeated Bradshaw.
Speaking of gimmicks that need to stop.
Ronnie Adams! 50 words or less, please.
Oh, look who's taking over hosting duties.
Oh, well, you go. You're busy with your fucking list. I'm sorry.
Dream a Little
the show
Dream
along.
is a 1989 teen film starring Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, Meredith Salinger, Jason Robards, was filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina, not far from Ronnie. Released in 1,019 theaters, it accumulated $5.5 million in theaters. This was the third film featuring the two Coreys.
The two Coreys!
The
That's
film
right.
sequel, Dream a Little Dream 2, was released in 1995.
What are the other two? There's 3 films with the two Coreys, right?
No,
Is that what they said?
No, there was a lot of films with the two Coreys.
The third one, after License to Drive.
License to Drive, baby. That's right.
And Lost Boys. This was the third.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, Ronnie was doing his 50 words or less. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Overall, it was an entertaining show for me. I'm a taker mark, so I enjoyed it. You fight me.
You enjoyed 2 minutes and 45 seconds of the pay-per-view, then. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Out of 7 hours.
Down to 10 minutes for his entrance.
It's out of 7 fucking hours. I'm fucking done.
Suck it, all 3 of you. That's all I have to say. But I like the Charlotte and Asuka match. I really loved it. I didn't enjoy the fact that they did step on her for Cena and Undertaker. As much as I'm an Undertaker mark, I didn't enjoy that. But the one match I feel I should have enjoyed more was the Intercontinental match, which it was a great match. I'm just not. This is personal. This is not, and I think he can carry a title. I'm just not a Seth Rollins fan. I would much rather have seen Miz retain it, or they actually do something with Finn Balor that give him a daggone title or something. So I felt like that's something I should just go back and watch just to enjoy the match and not have a bias against Seth Rollins in it. The main event was garbage in my opinion, but I thoroughly enjoyed the AJ and Nakamura match. I always ring either one of them.
Can I ask you a question?
No matter who it's with.
Can I ask you a serious question? Why are you racist against Brock Lesnar?
Yeah. You can't
Racist.
It's not racism, Mark. I think you don't know the definition of that word.
He throws
and
it
we're
around.
Going to have to.
He certainly
talk
does.
a little bit.
He uses it enough to understand.
Why do you hate the race?
No,
Why do you hate the race of Brock Lesnar?
Brock is not his own race, sir. I just don't.
Alpha male gorilla is not a race.
Yeah. I just don't. I think he's run his course, and I think he needs to go away. I'm sorry. Go back to UFC, go do leg day, something. I don't care. I just I don't enjoy him. I haven't for a long time. I think that he is. I don't know. He's just one of those guys that rubs me the wrong way. I think he's a jerk.
Let me say
I don't
this to
think
you,
he enjoys
Ronnie.
the wrestling business. I don't think he respects the wrestling business. I'm sorry.
Let me say this to you. When he leaves because you said what you've just said, because when you sent him away, when he goes back to the UFC and gets killed by fucking John Jones. Oh, wait, never mind. I can't even do that joke anymore because John Jones is a constant fuck up. I don't know. Does the joke, Pat, does the joke still work if I say if he fight, he'll get killed when he fights Dan Cormier?
No, what you could say is that if you are looking for a gentleman to rub you the right way, you should ask an Uber driver for directions to the Balor Club.
He went a totally different route.
Thanks,
I
Pat.
wasn't
He
expecting
did.
that.
Good save. All right, finish
I think
up
the
your 10 minutes of
joke
hate.
stopped working when you. I think the joke stopped working when you said, "Hey Pat, does the joke still work?"
All right, finish up your 10 minutes of racial hatred of Brock Lesnar. Go.
Oh my gosh, you are something else.
Heard.
I think he's done. I think he needs to be done. I don't think Roman Reigns. I think he needs to go back to development. That's just my opinion. I'm not a Roman Reigns fan in the least. But other than that, I enjoyed most of the show. The whole kid, how the audience was just ridiculous. But I still got a kick out of the bar or their entrance. Throwing beads into the crowd and stuff. Thought that was great. The other tag match was. I'm not a Usos fan, but I thought it was fun. It's good to see. I mean, we didn't talk about the Wyatt family, who's not the Wyatt family anymore. They have some ridiculous gimmick. Yeah, the gimmick is ridiculous, but they look good together. And Luke Harper looks like $1 million now.
Yeah, he does.
He's dropped a lot of weight. He has trimmed up. He's put a lot of muscle on, and I mean, it really shows that he's put some work in. I mean, he's a good worker anyway. I always thought he was, but now that he looks the part, I think I hope they go the distance with him, man. And I don't think the crowd was into the match at all. I think that is a crying shame.
All right, Pat,
I'm done.
Thank you. Pat, you're 50...
I'm done talking.
I'm done talking. Pat, you're 50 words or less, and you can choose any character you want to deliver your last 50 words on the show. Anything left unsaid? Anything you want to add to the show?
Baby, this show was a show where there was peaks, and there was level ground, and then there was valleys, and it reached the valleys, the very depths of the valleys in your soul, baby. But the level ground was as high as we was going to go on this one, if you will. Got to the pay window. But, babies, you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. You understand what I'm saying to you, baby? Because I'm the American dream and I'm a super genius.
That made about as much sense as a Dusty promo.
Hey, he's the second most recognizable athlete in America.
Second most recognizable athlete in the world, baby.
That's right.
Listen,
that's right.
I think Dusty is like one of my all-time favorites, so I'm not taking anything away from Dusty. I miss the dream.
All right, so that's it. That's our coverage of the WrestleMania weekend. The next night on Raw, Bobby Lashley came back. Ember Moon made her debut. No Way Jose made his debut. The Revival, I think, are back now and are working their way towards a title match possibly in Saudi Arabia. Were there any other returns on Raw, Pat, to your recollection? Or debuts?
No, only Paige's retirement from in-ring competition. However, she is still very active for out-of-the-ring competition.
Yes, and spoilers, Carmella cashed in the Money in the Bank and won the title on SmackDown from what I saw in my alerts. So there's that.
That is correct.
Yes.
You know, the Paige commercial during WrestleMania almost had me frightened.
A little awkward, wasn't it?
It was very, because it was like, is she live or is this actually edited? I didn't know what the hell was going on because it was like there on her face for like 4 full seconds before she starts talking. I'm like,
She always also,
what the hell?
she also always has that voice of, I've been out smoking and drinking for 3 days. But it was like another level on that one when you heard her voice.
Creepy. I didn't think it was her. I honestly didn't. I thought it was somebody else trying to do an imitation. I was like, oh, well, boy, they got rid of her and put somebody, it's a midget Brett all over again.
So I'll be curious to see where we go in the next year with wrestling. You know, I don't, because I record on Monday nights, so I don't watch Raw like I used to, but I always tune in for the big shows, and so the next one will be the one in Saudi Arabia. So that's it. Let's do plugs. Pat, go ahead and plug your stuff.
Well, allegedly, Gavin Napier wants to record a new version of the Casual Heroes. I've been hearing this for a while.
Believe it.
And that's my point.
Swerve, bro.
I'm all on board if we can do it. However, Swerve, bro, I have no doubt in my mind that he is not serious about it. I have no doubt in my mind he's just saying this because he just wants an outlet of some kind and to get my hopes up and just have them dashed. So if everybody listening would just blow him up on social media and say, bro, when you bringing back the show, bro? We want to get you back to the place that you were. We want to tear you down so we can build you up to what you're supposed to be. That was my goal for Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan, bro. They had been misused for so long that you had to tear them down to make them to be the people they were again.
And I promise to all the Casual Hero fans, I'm not coming back. Pat's going to permanently replace me. So I know all of you fans in West Virginia, the Casual Heroes, will love that. Go fuck yourselves.
Swerve, bro.
Swerve, bro.
It'd be awesome if it was a Swerve and you showed up on
the very first episode.
I'm never going anywhere. Come on, Jed. Make fun of my kids. Let's do it. Speaking of make fun of my kids, Ronnie Adams, do your plugs.
I've never made fun. Yeah, I have. Sorry. Yeah.
At least you never heard stories about his dog.
Fuck you, Pat. Go ahead, Pat. Go ahead, Ronnie. Whoever you are.
Screaming Boy Podcast is my show. We'll have some new episodes out very, very soon, I promise.
Swerve,
Shut
bro.
up to us.
Swerve, bro.
Swerve. I'm just recording and not putting them up anymore.
Thing about it is, we just talked for 2 hours. I didn't even record it. Suck it. I'm out.
Swerve, bro.
Now
I got to start a wrestling podcast and just call it Swerve, bro.
Please do. I'll be on it.
If you do that, I'll start one called Extra Cheese, motherfucker.
Just went to Twin City Comic Con. Good show. It was a one-day small con, not a lot of cosplay or anything like that, but a lot of good vendors. Next one coming up is Raleigh SuperCon, which is the big one, the 3-day con that all the wrestlers, stars, and creators are going to be at, which is going to be a lot of fun. I've got plans. I really want to meet Mick Foley. And then, of course, you've got guys like Batista is going to be there. But he's not really there as Batista. He's there as Dave Batista, star of Guardians of the Galaxy.
I believe Hacksaw Jim Duggan is there.
In Raleigh SuperCon?
I think
so.
He posted on Facebook.
Yeah. But I know Trish Stratus, DDP, like I said, Mick Foley, Sergeant Slaughter, a few, Christian or Christian Cage, whatever he's going by at the con. I don't know what he's going by. But they're all going to be there, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Raleigh SuperCon is one of the biggest if not the biggest show in the North Carolina area, or North Carolina, South Carolina area, to my knowledge. So it's expect a lot of pictures from that and an update from that. We've got some show ideas coming up, so just stay in tune or tuned in, and we'll have everything out. Any kind of social media, we're on it. Facebook, just search Screamboy Podcast. Twitter is at ScreamboyPR, and Instagram, where you'll find all the com pictures.
And the Instagram.
It's at Swerve Bro.
It's at Swerve Bro. No, it's Screamboy Podcast. But yeah, it's we're gonna have we got a lot of good stuff coming up. So that's it.
All right. Before I go over to Jesse, let me quick do what's going on the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network. Tomorrow night on the Metal Hammer of Doom is Camelot. I have to use the Pramalot. Camelot the Shadow.
That reference will be explained on that show, because I've heard it 5 times so far. I have no idea
Monty
what
Python.
the fuck it means. Oh, it's a Monty Python. Well, you know what? That is coming to Netflix soon. I might actually be able to watch some of that and understand what the hell you guys are saying.
You need to sit down and watch The Holy Grail, and you need to watch Mel Brooks' History of the World Part 1, or you're never going to understand a fucking word I say.
How can we be
Very
friends?
true. That's how Mark and I have bonded. I understand his references.
The Camelot, it's only a model. The Shadow Theory. We'll be reviewing that on the Metal Hammer of Doom. Monday, as Jesse mentioned before, we did Ringside Volume 1, Cade Fabe, issues 1 through 5. Next week, it's all monsters all the time. We got Monsters Unleashed on source material. We got a Damn You Hollywood for The Rock's new movie Rampage, based on the great video game. Metal Hammer of Doom will be looking at the band Visions of Atlantis. The following week, we'll have a pair of TV parties, one for DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which, Jesse, if you haven't seen the finale yet, who dog you in for a treat.
Boy.
It's when they... You'll see it. It's fantastic. We'll also be looking at the Netflix series Lost in Space. I will not be on the Metal Hammer of Doom. It's going to be Robert Cooper's pick. It's going to be all black metal all the time, I'm sure. And Jesse Starcher will just have to deal with it. By
the way, guys, I'm just going to suggest this, because the news brief just came to me. IDW, the comic printing company, will be printing a limited edition 60-page graphic novel written by, can you guess who?
Jim Cornette.
Yes.
Please, no.
It's called Jim Cornette Presents Behind the Curtain, Real Pro Wrestling Stories.
Oh, now is this legit?
Yes, he's been advertising it.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah, they also did one for Andre the Giant.
Yeah, but Andre's dead, so whatever. You can watch the movie. You can watch the movie tonight on HBO. That way, I saved you some time.
No, you can't.
All right,
It's over now.
April 26th. Now, Jesse Starcher already covered this once, but I wasn't on it, so who gives a shit? We're going to re-record a new look back at the Infinity Gauntlet limited series by Jim Starlin from back in the
91, 92.
I was on that show.
Uh-huh.
Yes, you were. You were. And you'll be on it again,
So-
Ronnie Adams.
I don't want to go through that again.
You're doing it.
It was so long.
Well, I'll be on it, so it'll be fine.
It ain't no long Halloween.
Oh,
Oh, well, that's true.
anyway,
Wait a minute. Which one was the one I drove in to West Virginia and immediately jumped on a podcast with you?
The hell if I remember, man. Been quite a few, actually, if I remember right. It might have been that
Yeah,
one.
true.
It's
So
either that.
I think it was that one.
Okay,
So-
we'll figure this out.
that Infinity Gauntlet show will be up on April 26th, Jesse. Mark it on your calendar, because that's the night that the Infinity War movie will be coming out. And then we will be celebrating the release of the Infinity War with Thanos Rising on source material, the limited series, our Damn You Hollywood of the Infinity War, and then on the Metal Hammer of Doom, Godsmack. When Legends Collide, I think it's the name of the album. So that's everything that's fit to print in April. Jesse Starcher, take me home, baby.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, go give that Rattlich in Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. All sorts of great content on there, such as the MMA coverage that Robert Winfrey brings to us. They're usually just about every week. We have comic books with my show source material. We have every once in a while we'll squeak in something in regards to wrestling, such as this here podcast. And Metal Hammer of Doom, that's on there as well. So there's going to be something on there that tickles your fancy, maybe tickles that bag that Mark Radulich is always referring to. So give it a like, stay up on top of everything we have out there. I'm ready to get out of here. I think I still need to catch up on sleep from Sunday night. So let's rock and roll.
All right, for the punchy pugilist and a man of 1,000 impressions, Pat Mullin. For the harumphy humph, the man who hates the race of Brock Lesnar's, Ronnie Adams. And the missing Screaming Boy podcast for the man that makes the trains run on time here at the Rattling Broadcasting Network, Mr. Jesse Starcher. I am the jerk, your mandated reporter, and frankly unmodified Mr. Mark Radulich, and this has been TV Party Tonight. Be well, be safe, and behave.